It's Jack from B&T MacFarlane. Today we're going to go over the KX057 from Kubota, so let's get into it. We're going to start the review of the KX057-5, talking about the digging capacities and all the specs on this machine, but you can't talk about the Dash 5 model without going over a couple of the features that changed over the Dash 4. The biggest ones are going to be up in the operator's platform. There's some awesome features up there that I think you guys are going to love. They also gave this Kubota, not on this side, but on the other side, they gave it a brand new paint job, which I think looks pretty cool. So the KX series from Kubota, being a KX series, it is not going to be zero tail swing. So when you spin that machine around, the back end, the counterweight, is actually going to hang over the sides of the tracks. This is a huge advantage over some other brands that actually don't have KX series, I guess, in their own terms. But they're all usually zero tail swing or tight tail swing. But the KX has a huge advantage because with that counterweight, as long as you can get the excavator, the width of it, which is about 6.5 feet wide for this one, into the gate, into the backyard, you actually have a huge advantage when you're swinging that machine around, having that extra weight. So if you're digging over the side, your machine's gonna be a lot more stable and have a lot more lift capacity than a zero tail swing model. With that being said too, this excavator, if you're working in really tight spaces along houses, you will have to be careful when you swing around. You're not gonna be fully contained within your tracks, so you could hit somebody's house or somebody in general, so you definitely wanna avoid that. This excavator here, it has a straight blade on it, which again is 6.5 feet wide. That is the widest part of the excavator. So you can also get it an angled blade option, so that is an option on the KX model. This excavator too, you're going to be digging at about 12 feet 9 inches down to a flat bottom. The boom also has about a 20-foot reach, so if you're out there grabbing stuff with your boom, you will be able to reach about 20 feet out in front of you. A nice feature on the KX057, it's Kubota's first excavator that actually has 2 sets of standard remotes down the front of it. So these aren't diverter remotes where you have to flip a switch or turn a valve to change between a tilt bucket and a thumb. You can actually run these two simultaneously as you're operating the machine. With that being said too, the first complaint on the KX057 and a lot of Kubota excavators is when you run a tilt bucket as well as a thumb, when you close that thumb around the tilt bucket, there's actually going to be a gap between the lip of the bucket and the thumb, so you can't actually bring the thumb over top of the bucket. The tilt bucket on these, it is a very nice feature to have though, especially with the 2 sets of remotes. You don't have to disconnect hoses or flip diverter switches in order to use both of them. The one thing you will have to keep in mind if you do put any kind of tilt bucket system is when you're reaching out further, the weight of that extra cylinder is going to be significantly higher, so you will have to be careful about tipping over. A nice thing about Kubota's couplers too, Kubota, they use a Kubota wedge style coupler. When you're looking at other brands of excavators, they don't take into account that when you're looking at breakout forces and that kind of stuff on the bucket itself, the quick coupler actually extends out past where the bucket sits. So when you're talking about lift capacities and breakout forces, it's going to be right at the pin pivot point. But on Kubota's quick coupler style, the quick coupler sits right at the pins. So the breakout forces you're going to see in the brochures and the spec sheets are going to be exactly what's going to be like on the job site and in a real life application. But with other brands, the quick coupler will actually stick out past that, so your breakout forces will be a little bit lower in your real world application. Now that that's covered, we're actually going to jump up into the operator's platform and take a look at some of the new features on the Dash 5. Okay. So I lied, I couldn't wait to show you guys the new paint job on the KX057-5. Instead of being all orange around the back, they did paint about half of it black. It's going to be on this side as well as the door side panel is going to be completely black. I personally think it looks amazing, and I hope you guys do too. Let me know what you think in the comments of the new paint job on the 057-5. Now that that's out of the way, we're actually going to jump up in there and take a look at some of the new features inside the cab. So just like in a lot of Kubota skid steers, the front glass actually opens up over your head, which is an awesome feature. Sometimes when you're on the job site, you want to be able to hear what's around you and listen to people talk to you. So you can open up all the panels on this. There's also sliding windows here. So in the summertime, you can almost turn this into a ROPS model. One of the nicest features I like on Kubota excavator cabs is the roof up there. There's actually a glass cutout. It's not a fancy sunroof like you would see on a luxury car. It's actually pretty practical because this excavator, you're gonna have a max dumping height of about 13 feet 8 inches. So when that boom is way up in the air, it's nice to be able to see above you and see where exactly you're gonna be dumping your loads into the back of dump trucks. One of the biggest features that's improved on the KX057-5 is going to be this screen right here. This screen, it's a super powerful tool and I personally love it. You can actually go in there and you can change your flow settings right down to the last decimal of a gallon per minute for your flow rates on the end of your excavator. There's a couple other things like operators, maintenance schedules. You can even see how long you've operated the machines, on what days you've operated the machines. So for rental yards too, for billing people, you can actually go into here and look at the calendar and see how long your clients or your customers actually used the machine for. Down here on the buttons, there's going to be a couple nice features that you're going to have. You're going to have the auto throttle, which I personally like. It's going to save you a ton of money on gas and a ton of effort on the job site. What it's going to do is it's going to automatically sense when you're not using the machine. So if you have the machine at high RPMs and then you let it idle for 4 seconds, it's going to automatically drop the idles to a lower RPM to save you a little bit of efficiency on the gas. Over here too, you do have front and rear wipers on this machine as well with LED work lights, which is a huge bonus. So it completely lights up the job site at night when you're. To continue with the cab, the buttons on these, they're very high quality and they feel like they're going to withstand a couple hundred hours, thousands of hours of use from this excavator. They're very easy to press even with gloves on right now. So it's nice on the job site if you are wearing gloves in the winter time. This excavator too, it also comes with heat and air conditioning. We also send them all with a radio as well from our dealership. To look down here, you're gonna have your fuse box, which is nice. It's gonna be very accessible within the cab itself, so you're gonna be able to access those on the job site. This excavator too, it also has a swing boom feature, so you're gonna be able to swing the boom of the excavator from left to right in order to dig tighter and closer to buildings. The joysticks on these, you're going to have the 2 sets of remotes controls as well. The left one here, it's actually going to control the tilt bucket control, and then the right one, that's going to control the thumb control. This excavator too, it also has 2-speed travel, so on your blade control lever, you're going to have a green button, and if you press that, you're going to go from traveling in a slower speed to a faster speed. So it's not going to be NASCAR fast, but it will help you around the job site getting from point A to point B. I think that pretty much covers it within the cabin itself, so we're going to hop around back and take a look at some of the engines. Like most Kubota excavators, they do make it very nice in order to maintain the machine itself. With just a flip of the latch there, it's going to be on a damper. You're going to be greeted by the engine itself. Everything is very easily accessible. You have all your engine dipsticks and oil fill-ups, as well as all your filters that need to be maintained. This engine, it is about 47 horsepower, so you do have a DPF filter. There is a DPF inhibitor switch inside the cabin. I wouldn't recommend you hit that all that often, or else you will have to bring it into the dealership for forced regeneration. Over there as well, there's some very easily accessible test ports as well to test your hydraulic pressure. So if anything does go wrong in the field or on the job site, everything there is easily accessible and easy to get at. That pretty much covers it on this side of the engine. So now we're going to walk around to the other side of the engine and take a look at this. So here it's going to be the exact same thing. Just a flip of the latch, open it up, and you're going to be greeted by the rest of the engine. So over there you're going to have your oil cooler and your radiator, as well as your entire hydraulic stack. So if anything again goes wrong on the job site, all your fittings and all your hydraulics, they're super easily accessible. Makes it very, very nice to operate on one of these and maintain this as a piece. So now we're going to talk about the track system on the KX057. Like most Kubota construction equipment, tensioning these tracks, they make it very, very easy. Just behind this little gate here, there's going to be a grease nipple, and you're going to be able to pump it with a little bit of grease to tension up those tracks. They also make the tie down points really nice on this excavator, one right there and one back there. So when you're hauling this from point A to point B, it does make it very easy and very nice for you to have those accessible. These tracks right here, they are the rubber tracks. You can get steel tracks on these as well. Although up here in Canada, steel tracks and ice, they don't really mix that well. So if you're down south or even in Quebec in a rockier terrain, that's when I would start recommending steel tracks. But in Ontario, in the Ottawa area, rubber tracks are usually the way to go. So that concludes the review of the KX057-5, the new model from Kubota. I hope you guys enjoyed the video as much as I did. And if you need help with parts, sales, or service, give us a call at 613-225-0555. Thank you.